Hello Internet, I'm Jockey Fox. Today I'm doing a request on a request. Someone asked me, okay, you've done, or you are doing, videos for every element. What about rainbow? And I think if you saw my kind of pre-140 meta recap video, suggestions of what might get good into the future, I did place rainbow a lot higher than it has been for a while. Let's look at some of the newer units and talk about which one of them will be most viable in this next generation of 140 rainbow teams. And one way that I want to do this is by using JB79's Job VC tool. This thing is really cool. I enjoy this, and it looks like it's updated into the future. It also looks like it has global exclusive vision cards as well. I'm seeing Sylvies, I'm seeing Shadow Links on Ices, I'm seeing Resniks. So it's got everything that we have and everything that we will have. This is kind of the general overview, so you can kind of see Axe is up there at 6. Fist is up there at 6. Glove will have 7. Mace is on 8. I told you that one was going to get a lot of options. Maybe we can look at these. This is great. This is great. I love this. Big shout out to JB79 for making this. I've already shared the video that this was posted through, the kind of the update video. If you haven't checked it out, man, this is helpful, and it's definitely going to be helpful to us content creators who have trouble keeping this stuff straight. So, as I was saying, Axe is one of the ones that's going to be getting its 6th, and it already has 5 at this point. Some of them are actually pretty decent for Axe, but See, for this one, it's the units that they're kind of, you know, like these 3 are cool. This one's okay, but books really getting slept on. Bow getting slept on hard, actually. I really wish I could make a bow group. Bow is one of my favorite job classes in this game. One of the reasons I love Eliza over Elia. It's a shame that there's only 2 bow VCs. Like, I really want to build a bow team. I guess the gunner team is going to come first, though, even though I'm not sure that I want that. I want the bow team. I really do. We got some Dagger VCs. We got some Dagger VCs coming in the future. We have a couple exclusive Dagger VCs, so we are way ahead on being able to build this compared to where JP would be. This is something that's going to sneak into global sooner. That being said, even with the future VCs counted, we're only at 5, so it's not in our near future in any means, and it's definitely not in JP's future because they are what they have as many right now as we do, basically. Okay, so Fist. This is one that I've definitely talked about, and this is the Fist 6. These are the Fist VCs that bring a Fist team power. You notice they have 2 agility VCs, which is pretty nice. A unit attack and unit resist. So you could build for really tanky, but you can also build to have in any way you go, really, I think. Unless the 2 agility VCs happen to be these 2 VCs. You can build for high agility by putting an agility VC in your main and sub slot while all having job VCs. There's also a lot of other fun synergies for the Fist teams. So this is one of the first that I'm going to seriously consider as a rainbow contender. This team is rainbow viable now. Perrine is the heavy hitter, really. Perrine is the best Fist unit. I say this even with newer Fist units having come out. Snow might give her a run for her money with 140. He has historically been very good. But she is the Fist DPS. And Edward is also a Fist DPS. Don't get me wrong, he's not a bad Fist DPS or anything. But he is one that definitely needs more of a tank. So he's going to be great on certain teams, I think. He's really going to he needs his brother. Let's not bullshit. He needs his brother for right now. In the future, maybe he can fuck with Snow. but he needs his brother right now real bad. I mean, maybe he could work with Snow now. It's not like 120s can't be played, especially strong 120s that are favored. And I definitely played Snow and Fox of the Hill into a mostly 140 or 140-ish, 140 era water team. And he did pretty well. So it's not undoable, but compared to Edward, she doesn't need a tank. She is kind of, I want to say, like Little Leela the Bold levels of durable, almost close to Snow levels of durable. She's missing courage, and that would be a real big help with a threshold heal. But other than that, she's pretty damn tanky for a not tank, right? But speaking of tanks, Alphonse is just nuts durable. He is the thing that is most literally a tank of all the things we have in the game. A suit of an armor isn't quite there, you know. There's some modern machine. It is the Elden tank. You know what I mean? He's got just tons of resistances, tons of defense, elemental chain resistance. In addition to that, good buffs. He's got the ability to increase defense and spirit on an attacking move, which is important because it means that even when he's in the thick of it, he's still going to have an option for boosting his defensive stats, which most tanks, like, you know, unless they just can't hit anything, they aren't going to be using a move like Sentinel, which would do something very similar. And it's also kind of beneficial for him that he can do damage while doing that. In addition to, like, the AI reasons I just explained, it's always good to be able to do damage and buff at the same time, even though this boy ain't, like, a damage dealer. But for right now, he is the most viable tank for this team, with maybe an exception. So he is very notable in the Rainbow Strike for that reason. Edward, we just talked about. But one thing I'd like to add for him is that he brings a lot of evasion countering to his kit. He has a guaranteed hit counterattack, which is pretty good. I mean, other than it being guaranteed hit, there's nothing to write home about for that attack. But there aren't other guaranteed hit counterattacks, so it's special. And it kind of feeds in a bit. Now, you don't want to have to rely on his counter to take somebody out, but unlike other guaranteed hit style units, it ensures that there is a possibility, I say possibility heavily here, it ensures that there is a possibility that even if he runs out of AP and can't use Adamantine Pillar Transmutation, which was his really, really great anti-evasion move, then he at least has a chance of countering with guaranteed hit damage and taking out the last HP or the re-raise HP or whatever is lasting after they've been smacked in the face with an adamantine pillar. Uriel is the potential secondary tank. She's not really a tank, but, and I forget what her main job is called, but she has a really strong fist job. It's the most modern fist job. And look, the three units we discussed before are all signature units. They have special jobs. She's the first fist unit that has actually one of the only fist units on this list of notables that that has a regular fist job. And it is a new one. It's very good. It's like an upgraded pugilist. It has a move that gives courage, which I believe has 2 casts and also restores AP, so that's very good. She's not necessarily a tank in general, but she has hella missile resistance. If you can find a way to get some hate on this girl, then you have a anti-missile tank. It's kind of niche, but if you don't have Alphonse or Snow, that's your option. And then, of course, Tifa is pretty important right now. She was recently free again, so a lot of people have her. A lot of people have had the opportunity to 140 her. She works very well with Edward. She works... Well, honestly, I would probably prefer Edward to her in most cases. She's a bit tankier. She's also a lot more evasive. But I don't think either of those things hold up nearly as well these days, at least in the way that she does them. So, like a lot of free units that have already well past their prime, I'm not seeing as much use for Tifa. Makoto has the same issue, except that she's special. She's interesting. She brings things to the Fist team that other people don't. She's a monk, but like a special type of monk in that she has heals, and she has magic attacks, she has strike attacks, all in her main job. It's very interesting. Also has the ability to buff pretty nicely for the team, so she has a little bit of a supportive capability. If she is a UR slime in a lot of ways in her main job, like the slime version of monk plus magic, she very much does that in her signature job. So she's interesting. Her issue is that she's a hybrid unit, and even though she does have a weapon that supports her hybridness, which makes her a more effective hybrid unit than a lot, she's just never made a big splash, unfortunately. But I do think that she could work. I'm using her as my bait unit in front of my wind punch team because I don't have Alphonse yet. So she still has a place. She still can work, but ideally I want to move past having Tifa or Makoto on my team, at least until Makoto gets a 140. I think Makoto could be cool. I really hope that she gets a lot of respect with her 140 because she could be great. And let's face it, her 140 is probably a long ways off, so let's hope she gets a lot of power because she's trying to keep up with the meta 6 months from now, that kind of thing. That would be cool. That would be cool to see Makoto come out of like nowhere and become one of the better Fist units because of all the interesting and unique things she brings to the team. The other unit I would put on my radar is Raldor. Similar reasons to Uriel, except that he's actually a tank but doesn't have courage, I think. He might have courage. Regardless, similar thing in that he is very much a missile resistance unit, something that these cards build into incredibly well, but he also has a lot of high pierce resistance, so he's a bit more flexible than Uriel in this respect, and again, actually a tank. So that's who I've got my eyes on for Fist. Glove is going to be a lot more restrictive and a lot less multi-elemental. In fact, there's a really good fire elemental team among this with Kefka, Roy, and Revelka. That is just a really strong team, especially maybe for limited. We got like 190 plus 50, 240 cost, not bad. But, you know, other than that, the rainbow team for this is Summer Helena in there, or maybe Zoma in there. Both of those are limited characters, and the core of this team is Kefka and Roy, who are both limited characters. I haven't seen fully rainbow versions of this team because, again, 2 of these cards are coming in the future to really finish it out. We're not quite there yet, but you can practically build this team. You got 5 out of 6. That's pretty damn close. It could be built now if you have the right vision cards. More the merrier brings a lot of anti-magic to this setup. Hopefully she gets a 140 soon and can be worked into this team. Again, she's a unit that, to my knowledge, JP doesn't have, so this would be a way that, you know, this is a piece of kit that we as global players have access to that could kind of change the way the glove meta happens, especially if we get her 140 in a timely manner. Zoma is another interesting choice, at least for now, if you have him, just to bring ice into this team because, well, unless you're doing Sweetheart Celia, who also might actually be a good choice. I just think Zoma has a lot more power than Sweetheart Celia. Maybe with Sweetheart Celia's 140, she'll come into this team. I could say the same for Garvel as well, except that I think Sweetheart Celia is just a little bit better, and that the reasons that Garvel... A lot of the reasons that Garvel is good and potentially better and more used than Sweetheart Celia or maybe some of these other glove units is that he has powerful dark teams to fit into. Does he have that same value in Rainbow as a glove unit? No, because I think he's a very basic glove unit. I mean, this is all the glove units, I think, in the notables. That's all of them. And he was the first, even though Revelka's kind of behind him. That's only because she's an MR unit. She is in some ways an updated Garvel. Would I rather have Garvel on my team than Revelka? Sure, but I think Revelka is more notable for the limited team or for the fire team, and Garvel just don't fit on either of those, is my point. So if you're doing Rainbow Glove, that's kind of how you're going, but it's probably going to be more Fire Glove, honestly. Greatsword weapon group. So this is one that's almost at 6 in JP. Nope. Because I don't... No, they do have the Winter Vision card. Okay, so they're almost at 6. We'll get closer to that when we have... is that Sildra? I guess that's Sildra. Is that Sildra? I guess that's Sildra. Okay. Wait. So Sildra is Greatsword, Mage, or Red Mage, and Katana. That's very cool. Okay, I dig it. I dig it. I actually really dig it. I'm excited for that one because there's kind of a subgroup that I'm going to get into with this, because that is going to be the third Katana and Red Mage card. So I know it's not like 6 cards like I've been saying for a lot of these, but when you're looking at a 2-job synergy, you're getting a little more flexibility. Hopefully that pays off, and you can take a little bit of a hit on the power of your VCs. What I think is important is getting 3 though, getting your main VCs covered, and this will be the 3rd for that team, which I think is going to be pretty cool. But talking about greatswords, recent units, we got Hio, if you want to bring some fire and anti-ice into this, maybe some anti-missile into this. Another way to go for anti-missile, maybe a really good combo together for an anti-physical missile team would be Esther and Hio. Of course, if you want to go into more of a traditional tank, as Esther isn't quite a traditional tank, a little bit more of a pseudo tank, you could go with June. June is an excellently sturdy girl. If you want really big damage, although I think Hio strictly is probably better than Ruinstern for the reasons I laid out in my video talking about Hio, but Ruinstern is another way to put a big damage DPS in there, even if he doesn't necessarily have the anti-missile or anti-ice capabilities that I was touting for Hio, or that make him a good combination with Esther. He is still a big damage boy. You've also got Cloud, and I say that because statistically speaking, you personally also have Cloud. There's like a 50-50 chance that you're like, yeah, I do have Cloud, as a matter of fact. I think about half the players of this game have pulled him, which is pretty astonishing for a limited unit. So hey, this gives you something to do with your Cloud. I'm sure he's going to show up on a lot of supergroups, whether he should or not, and he's going to bring a bit of accuracy to this team. There are a number of units here that can be built for accuracy, not you, Esther. Although she does have a high accuracy move and an accuracy buff in her kit, but just not the base accuracy to bear it all out, unfortunately. I mean, I'm sure there's some really intense building that you could do to make her hit things, but yeah. Evasion's not good for her. Anyways, Cloud has a bit of AoE accuracy in that he has a guaranteed hit move. Guaranteed hit units are getting a little bit more awkward now with Yuffie, but really, I mean, he's not going to have trouble with Chunok, right? So, I mean, he might not have trouble with Chunok. Chunok might actually give him a little bit. I don't know. But I think Cloud is a pretty solid unit, not over-spec'd anymore, not overpowered, but he's going to be an interesting addition to a greatsword team in the future. And then you've also got Rain, who, you know, hopefully his niche of AoE resistance is going to help him out once he makes it to 140. It can really be built for that. I've seen some promising takes from JP on that. But that also means, like, AoE resistance is great. Do not get me wrong. It is amazing. One of the reasons it's amazing is because if you think about it this way, every move in the game is either single target or AoE. So, I mean, you know, all things being equal, you have a 50-50 chance that reduces damage, where, like, elemental resistance, that's like a 12.5% chance, right? So, you know, I'd rather go with that 50-50 than the 12.5 any day. But at the same time, that also means that the other 50% of attacks, you're not necessarily building resistance to, or you've neglected perhaps a little bit more to build your AoE resistance. Because look, something's got to give. You don't end up over 100 AoE resistance and get everything else on your wish list necessarily. You could. There probably is a cheeky or clever build that can get a lot of other things on him. But what I'm saying is that I think that a Dark Fina is going to melt his face. Or a character like that, and there is no shortage of single target damage dealers that would really get through that. Perrine! Subjugating Fist, what? Sorry, had something in my throat. It felt like a fist coming up. Anyways, single target Fist will definitely take him out. But, could be cool on a rainbow team, because, like, think about it. You put him in front of Esther and Cloud. And they're like, okay, I will Perrine the fuck out of this guy. He is about to get subjugated. And then all of a sudden Perrine's going up against Esther and Cloud. I don't know. I mean, there are uses for him. I don't want to disrespect Rain, but he has a ways to go for where he is in global right now, I would say. For the gun group, 5th card coming in the future. I really wish there was this much, a near future too, so looking at it. I wish there was really this much respect for bow units. Come on, Gumi. The only weapon subgroup more disrespected than bow. Okay, this might not literally be true. Boomerang. Poor Hope. Hope has no hope for being good with job VCs, unfortunately, is the way it seems. As far as gunners, let's go with our 100 cost team. So let's think about how this would work out. You've got your long range, low movement in Alaya. She's kind of your heavy bombardier, firing from the back. Then you've got the Jadens, which are just a little bit more mid-range. They do have some long-range stuff, but they can get in close for a jamming thrust, things like that. And they also have some shorter range moves as well. So a little bit more of a mid-range unit, and then you could have like Rurugia in the middle of this being more of a support. I think that Rurugia probably makes a lot more sense in this context, because there aren't, looking at this list especially, who the fuck else is a support here? Who is your support on this team? You know what I mean? Who is supporting? I see a lot of other potential roles here. There's a pseudo tank. It's not really a tank, actually. There's a pseudo tank. There's an evasion unit. There's a debuffer. You know, you've got stuff like that. You've got a lot of ranged units, obviously. It's kind of their thing. But you don't have a support other than Rurugia. So I think he could be interesting in that respect, which I think is going to mean that he probably has better play in Rainbow than he does in Earth. In the same way that I think that monks have better play in strike teams. Again, since, you know, other than Makoto, they're really and Slime, they're the only supports. I think that he might be more interesting in an all-gunner rainbow team built around vision cards. Okay, Katana group. Katana, oh wait. That's not that wasn't the Sildra card. That was the card that came before Sildra previously. This is the Sildra card. My bad. This is the Katana Red Mage card, and so are these. So these are going to be the three that are going to work for Katana and Red Mage. And that, I think, is a powerful synergy. I think that brings, that allows you to splash units like Sephiroth or Astrius into your otherwise Red Mage teams, which is fun. I don't dislike it. But looking at the Katana units we have, I mean, again, Sephiroth and Astrius, both of these were like meta-defining boys when they came out. So if we're looking at like the supergroup theory for the Katana team, you've got these two big banging boys. If you were looking for another unit, though, lower cost, I would say Dia is probably really strong into the future. I just really love these series of free MR units. I think they're a solid step above perhaps some other units of their cost, so I really like... Well, I really see myself liking Dia. I haven't actually looked too hard at her, but I think that she's probably your limited choice Katana unit. I'm also a fan of Laswell. Laswell is very accurate and can be pretty evasive. Mirage is just a great form of shielding that works really well for him, so I think he could definitely work. But if I were to pick a unit that you might not expect from this list, and a unit that has really never been meta, that actually could be kind of meta in a 6 Katana VC team, I'm gonna have to go with Varouche. I know. There are sounds of audible confusion from the audience right now, but I want you to think about Varouche for a second. Varouche is inverse Sylvie. On paper, they have a lot of the same moves between the fact that they're both Blade Souls and some variation. Well, actually, they're both Blade Souls and White Mages. Yes, Sylvie has her special main job, which is awesome. She has amazing stats, which he doesn't. She is a better unit than Varouche. She's also limited at 100 cost, and he's a 90 cost normal pool unit. He's also wind. That's interesting in, you know, shoring your team up against Earth these days. He's not a damage. I mean, he's not a support in his AI, so he is going to be kind of an awkward support for your team, but he is coming in with things like Curata and at the very least full life. I mean, it is super impactful to get your Sephiroth back to life, especially if the enemy has advanced behind him, and then he can just come in and attack them from behind, and all of a sudden you have an impromptu pincer strategy with a 3D DPS team where one of them just happened to cast full life. I think that's a really interesting thing, and again, that's one of the things that I'm looking for in these weapon groups is units that aren't just DPSs, units that bring other flavor to the team. The question I do have is, who the fuck is the tank for this team? I guess they don't get one, that's fine. No Katana tanks, that'll be fine. At least, at least Varouche has Banishing Barrier. At least we've got Mirage for Laswell. We can take a hit. We can... Anyways, I'm sure that Fruit, aka Katana Meta, aka the winner of the Fox of the Hill Season 1, could tell us much more about the future of katanas. But it is looking exciting with their 6th vision card coming soon. But again, I just want to shout out that there are 3 that also include Red Mage. So there is a strong synergy there, and I dig it. Maybe 4? Wait. That's a Red Mage card, isn't it? Because it's got... That's Howlett's card, isn't it? Are there 4? Because that's definitely Howlett's card. Oh, look at me learning something while I make a video. There's 4. Shit, I've got a card I've got to pull for. Magical Maneater, though. Well, I mean, for my red mages, yeah, that makes sense. Spirit Strike Resistance. I do kind of dig this. This card is now very much on my radar. Glad I caught that. Alright, Mace weapon group. This is one that I've been talking about for a while. If only because it's getting so many. And I made my predictions that it was going to get more. Because it almost had 6 in JP. They didn't have this card, and I often forget that it's a Mace card. Crate rate. I also often forget that it's a Mace card. So that's an extra one. And they got one, as I predicted, for Rafu. So that brings them up to 7. But it brings us, or it will bring us up to 8. We currently have 7 because of that card. I do have it, and I forget that I have it. And this means that, okay, so Queen Macherie is a very powerful unit. She is piece de la resistance on the Earth teams. I mean, she is a modernized Earth version of Black Witch Helena. Let's not split hairs on what Queen Macherie is. She is Mont's mother. Isn't that awkward? Anyways, she's become Mont's mommy. Oh my god, how weird realizations happening during the Rainbow video, you guys. But I think that mainly the thing that she's bringing to that team is Earth resistance down. That is a big part of it. And I don't think that she necessarily has the same synergy into a Rainbow team. Obviously, if I were to build a supergroup team without much other thought to things, she would be a member. But what does she bring to the Mace team? I'm not as sure. She is a powerhouse. I'm sure she'd be fine, right? Rafu. Tanky as fuck. The tankiest tank to ever tank. Just... she's like the inverse of everything that I said about Resnick the Hoppy. And more. And modernized. Where Resnick the Hoppy has tools in her kit to deal with everything that tanks were doing when she came out, Rafu has everything that tanks do to defend themselves, essentially. I think there might be like one exception here. I don't think she has courage and re-raise. And then I think she got some extra stuff that made her even better. It was just a much better spread than anybody else. She is very tanky. So this team has a tank. The question that I've been asking for a lot of these is solved for Mace. Mace has a tank. If you want kind of a brawler that can be built up pretty cheap, except for the scrolls. Scrolls are getting more... I am starting to get to the point where I've got more UR scrolls than I really can effectively spend, at least on the units that I want to upgrade. I could be upgrading a lot more units like Macherie right now, really. Because those limited units, without me blowing a lot of Viz on them, I'm doing the reincarnations for them fairly slowly. I'm kind of letting myself be gatekept by their mind spheres. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. I can always buy more if I need them. I can always use my universal ones. I've got tons of those. So I'm not even worried with limited units necessarily on that. So maybe you build up a Macherie. She gets really freaking tanky, especially with like Hallowed Ray. Kind of giving her the same thing I was talking about for Alphonse, where she has an offensive move that she's really going to use in all situations that raises defense and spirit. Her LB raises all of her attack type resistances, a la the same as Elegant Spinning Edge on Celeste. So... I mean, she has some potential if you really want to invest a lot in her as a free unit. Same could kind of be said of Ildira, except that she's definitely not going to be durable, no matter how much reincarnation you put into her, but she will undoubtedly become a better and better support, and also probably be able to slap with some damage too. But, you know, she's Ildira. She's an older unit, she's a free unit. I don't think she's going to be amazing in PvP, even if you invest a lot in her, but she's viable. What I would say, if you're looking for that arithmetician flavor and even lower cost, 70 cost as opposed to 80, you could go with Halloween Little Leela. Now, personally, I have a rule for myself. I don't know if this is a good rule. I'm not even entirely sure that I should share it with my audience. It's just a thing that arguably is wrong in my brain as it comes to this game, but I do not pull for older units on especially holiday banners. I have wanted Halloween Little Leela. She is so capable. She is the healer for this team. I know I just mentioned a really good support, but she also has full life and better range, and lower cost. And better movement. She's just better. But like I said, I don't really recommend pulling for older units like that because it usually feels bad. What I would do, how I would recommend this, the way that I will eventually get Halloween Little Leela is if I get excited for the new Halloween unit and get her along the way. I will verily happily invest the resources into building her should I pull her, but I'm not going to pull for her, if that makes any sense. Other options for DPS / support, we got Soddly. He is an early game support that has some really interesting supportive skills, including being able to give someone hate and re-raise, which is a really interesting combination. And then once he gets in, he's more of a technical DPS to where he's throwing status, he's throwing damage, he's got CT down, he's got a lot of really interesting kit for basically fixing the tempo in your direction. He's a very good tempo unit. If you want to go really hard into magic countering, if that's a thing, she's not a tank, but she is very durable to magic. A lot like, kind of like a Water Celeste without the hate and a lot more power. I'm not saying that she's a total powerhouse, but man, she can do some damage. I think her LB breaking water is kind of like Queen Macherie, makes her a little bit more important for water teams than she does necessarily in a rainbow team, and she's not necessarily the strongest unit to be on a supergroup team. To continue the supergroup theme though, we have Classy Glassy, who was a specialty unit for JP. We got her late, so we've always had a bit of a lesser impression of her because she kind of arrived after the curve. She didn't feel good to build when she came out necessarily, but she is a 100 cost unit, make no mistake, and she is one of 4 on this list. So I think she works well on a Mace team potentially because she has the same sub-jobs as Lemure, now that I think about it. She has Scholar. She does get Law of Geo-Assimilation, so she does have the DPS and healing capabilities of Scholar, which is pretty cool for her. Makes her a really effective brawler. She has a strong brawly main job, and then she also has White Mage, so she does have the ability to be a little bit supportive here. If you're not going for one of the arithmeticians who are both a bit more supportive, then she's probably one of your only other ways to get solid heals in here. Again, Queen Macherie has big instant cast heals, but your likelihood of seeing her use them, much like Queen Helen, are pretty low. Ninja Blade. Okay, this one is genuinely one I'm excited about. The smaller pool of units, unfortunately, a little bit of a niche job. The thing that I think is going to be really cool about this is that as far as jobs go, they already have a really strong natural synergy. And that is, they're all kind of evasive and damage defense penetrating. I mean, like, I get that certain... They're right on this borderline of being so small that they're niche, but also having a really consistent theme and niche, which essentially means that some of the same things are going to work really well for each group, or for each unit. Okay, cool. Each of these has a slide. So, and the other thing that I really love about this team and its potential into the future is that one of the most appropriate vision cards for this team, again, ninjas being evasive, critical heavy, needing extra AP potentially. It's something that they tried to address with the Sasuke's Katana, and all of these things are addressed on the free VC that hopefully you got as a part of the Intergrade collaboration. This is like the baseline for building ninja teams, in my opinion. This does so many things that they want. Main, you want it. Sildra's VC also might be a good future main job VC for these guys, or main slot VC for these guys, just to add in crit rate to your crit damage, get some spirit because they tend to be weak to magic, and some slash penetration because they're all slash units. That's excellent. They also tend to like magic resistance, unit attack resistance, and maybe Master Coral works in here. Magic attack, though, Not a big thing. So the Kefka Vision card, that's either a sub VC or a skip VC. For me, kind of same for Roy's Vision card. Again, sub or skip. Swanlight Grace, that would be a good one to get when it comes back around. The issue that I have with it is that it's going to be a second crit damage VC. So as much as I want to run this main, it overlaps with something that I already want to run main. So that means that I'm either intentionally buying this to be a sub VC or intentionally buying this to make one of my main VCs a sub VC. Don't get me wrong, the idea of having attack percent, missile resistance, and critical damage, I think these are all really important for your for matchups against super accurate missile teams, but also, you know, crit damage and attack that percent. You know, you want to be able to take people out quickly. You're kind of an assassin class, so you want to take them down fast. This card really, like, this video will get 10 minutes longer if I have to work through which of these I would rather have as my main VC. You know what I mean? But it's not a bad thing that they can get extra crit damage both in main and sub slot. I'm not sure how that gets cut for your sub VC slot, but being able to stack that for this team might not be a bad thing. But I think that is also the other, like, must-have VC. This is also looking pretty good in the future, though. Okay, spears. So we have a lot of spear units, only 5 spear VCs. I'm not really sure what to say about spear units exactly. There isn't a support on here, but there is a tank coming in the future, so I guess that's cool. But, I guess rush into a lot of damage. High critical. I don't know. I'm not really sure what the team would be for this necessarily, except to say that this has a lot of potential, probably more to work with Earth than it would necessarily with a rainbow composition. I don't know. Maybe you synergize those things better. But again, it's a little bit of a theoretical, as it's going to be getting that 6th in the future. And also, like, JP only has 3, so it's hard to look into the future and see what this is going to be like, because it's so alien to the people who are playing the future of our game. Sword A weapon group. Okay, Red Mage, cool. So 8 vision cards by the future, 5 vision cards available now. This is why I'm excited for the Red Mage group. And as you can see down here, you have a pretty incredible selection. Do you need a tank? We got Agrius, we've got Charlotte, we've got Miranda. Do you need to turn off that alarm? Yes, be right back. Okay, so again, this is one that I am really excited for. I think that this combination of vision cards is going to be really helpful. It is, you've got the Man-Eater. Oh, wait, you've got 2 magical Man-Eater, but you do have a physical Man-Eater. You've got a lot of Man-Eater on this team, potentially. A lot of crit-related stuff. And a lot of interesting resistance options as well slash penetration coming. Which is important as a sword class. These are all slashing units. I think Ferris is really going to be a big part of this team, maybe like the champion of this team, in part because, like, I don't want to be one of those people who says that water is bad, but water does have some problems within the meta. It is not a perfect element. It never has been, unfortunately, at least in my recollection since Cloud. Cloud put water in an awkward place that hasn't really recovered from. Anyways, I think that this means that there's a lot more good water units that become elementally homeless, and I kind of see this happening to Ferris. Sure, there's going to be future water teams in which he's going to be good on. I would imagine like something like Ferris, Omnilus, and Perrine is really strong. It's essentially a water supergroup, but it does have the disadvantage of being a water team in a game where a lot of people have lightning units. So I think that she might find a home on other rainbow teams a lot more often than she finds home within her own element. Although, at the same time, I do think that she is going to be, like, the champion of either side. Like, she's going to perhaps be the standout unit of either team, perhaps. Whether she's on Red Mage or whether she's on Water, at least for right now, it looks like she's going to be the badass. There is an ice synergy here between Reagan and Howlet. I guess you could also throw in Agrius, so Reagan, Howlet, Agrius, Red Mage team will be possible in the future. It's going to be, well, I mean, once Howlet and Reagan are out. But really, the VCs exist to do this already, especially since you can slot in ice VCs for whatever doesn't work. But this is a rainbow video. I know I got decided to explain this via the job VC system, but just thought I'd point that out while I was here. There's a couple elements actually that could make teams out of this unit pool. It is pretty diverse and does contain a lot of different types of units. Not necessarily seeing anyone that I would call much of a support though. Kind of missing a healer here. Maybe a Red Mage with White Mage sub would be nice in the future. Just saying, like a good White Mage sub. There might exist a little bit of that on here, but no one that I really want healing my team. So that is a bit of a trouble that they will have to work through. Warriors. So warriors,
come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
Will hit 6 vision cards with the Minotaur. They're also getting a free unit in Bart's. Bart's is often free units because of their just wide distribution through the game. End up being on rainbow teams pretty often. And I think that there's a lot of things about Bart's, like his, I don't call it like reaction, but like follow-up hit thing that he does. That is going to be functional with a lot of other people that have large AoEs.
Forced to flee. Reuters has been unable to verify reports.
He's going to work well with people who have large AoEs, so maybe even King Mont or Gilgamesh could work well in this respect. Because him getting a follow-up hit on Claws of the Young King, which reduces slash attack resistance, or Kotetsu, which removes re-raise and reduces slash attack resistance, would be notable and powerful. I also think that Sorrow, if you have him, is going to be a notable unit for this, just because he does well both accuracy and evasion. So, you know, he can counter himself, he can counter his own meta, while also excelling in it. That makes him a good, well-rounded unit. If you need to splash in a bit of evasion with your warriors, or if you need a bit of high accuracy with your warriors, he can really suit both of those jobs, and they are both fairly important. This is also the subjob that is going to contain, or this is also the weapon group that's going to contain Tidus. A lot of people have Tidus. A lot of people will maybe be 140ing Tidus with the Pixel Remaster. It looks like his upgrade is going to be pretty decent, although again, aging free unit. I have issued my warnings about those before, but also an aging free unit that has been a classic in PvP, and I think still shows up on those weird Rainbow Supergroup teams today, so why not? He seems like he'd be great in this. And then for this particular group, you actually have a variety of tanks that you could choose from. If you want your tank to be a walking HP bar, you could use Warrior of Light. If you want your tank to be able to restore a walking HP bar, you could use Freyevia. Would you use Freyevia and Warrior of Light together? It sounds incredibly annoying, but also kind of weak, to be honest with you. And then if you need MR tanks, you do not lack for that either, because Mariel and Dario are two of the best. So, damn. Just tank heaven for the warriors. And then we got knights. So knights are gonna have some tanks for themselves. Okay, so Red Mage was the non-tank group. They split the tanks among these two. To be fair, it would be really lame if all of the tanks were in the same weapon group. But shit, there are a lot of tanks in this weapon group. So one team that I am actually fairly excited, or one combo that I'm excited for this is going to be Bradley and Noctis. The issue is that if I'm going for a third Earth unit, that's going to be Halloween Raryu, and I have him, but I don't want to build him. The other major issue here is the lack of vision cards. That being said, since we are talking about rainbow units, there are a couple of units on this in this lineup that I do think are going to be important on rainbow teams, with or without Knight ever getting a 6th vision card. Completely irrelevant. Not about building Knight teams. This is about modern supergroup teams, and I think that that's going to be Bradley. Bradley for a lot of the same reasons as Sorrow, except all of those reasons on crack with CT up. He's just Sorrow 2.0 with more good stuff. If Sorrow wasn't good enough, we have King Bradley. And if I haven't made it clear enough, that's just a unit that can slot into any team and be aggravating. Now, he doesn't have the evasion that Sorrow does, so he falls to a lot of stuff, but in a rainbow team, it's really easy to compensate for that, because what build restrictions do you have? I mean, we're not talking about a Knight team at this point. What build restrictions do you have? You don't, really. I also think that Winged Stern might be powerful enough to fill this role, but one interesting kind of perennial unit for this, I think, is Celeste. Celeste just does what she does so well that if your team needs someone to do that, you can use Celeste. I mean, seriously. Even just Celeste is such a good unit, such a good tank, that I really think that it's hard to find teams that she doesn't work on compared to other units. So if you need a tank that can cancel magic, and maybe you don't, but if you do, Celeste generally works very well for that. Staff Group 1, Black Lives Matter. It's Black Mage, I know. Alright, so we have 3 incoming VCs for this, which would bring us to a total of 8. So, very well represented. I think, let's see, we're getting a lot of supports in here. A lot of good healer support. Phoebe. Actually, let's back up. I didn't do one thing that I usually do. So, if you want DPSs for this team, I don't think you have a ton of options here, unfortunately. You have Skahal, amazing. Auto Courage definitely needs supportive help, but this team does not lack for supportive help. I think Lemure specifically could be really good with Skahal in being able to quicken him and mean that he can do a lot more devastation before the damage catches up with him, but also because she can heal him. Do you want another healer? I don't know. Is she healer enough? Is her being both healer and time mage potentially an issue here? Might you even choose the perpetually confused Aerith over Lemure for such a job? And who's your third unit? Do you want another DPS? Because Dark Fina, Cadillac DPS. I mean, walking into a meta where you're talking about units having over 100 area attack resistance, walking into a meta where AoE resistance is getting more and more common, being an incredibly notable single target damage dealer, just makes her awesome. And it does not hurt that she is the third part of the dark combo of Rafu, Sephiroth, and Darkfina, but I also think that for some of the same reasons that she makes a great third unit on that team, she would also be really amazing on a staff team or slotted into another team if you want a bit of a curveball. Because again, with this many staff VCs and with the rate that they're putting them out, there probably being a lot more coming in the future, it might be easier to work a unit like Darkfina onto, I don't know, like your Axe team. Talk about a team that's really lacking for units, but you know, something like that might be viable at some point in the future. Okay, looking at Devout. Who would be on my Devout supergroup? Well, I think one really strong combination for the Devout supergroup is something that already worked outside of the Devout supergroup, but with slightly different units, and definitely newer and probably better units for doing this type of shenanigans. But how do you feel about the idea of Resnick and Amnelis on a team together? Hear me out. Amnelis is Skahal, but modernized. The issue that Amnelis has, other than being a water unit and having some of the natural disadvantages that come with that, is that she didn't really have a Resnick on her team. I'm not saying that there's a lack of good healers on water necessarily, but that I think that bringing in someone like maybe Sylvie or someone like Resnick is probably one of the better ways to really get the max potential out of your Omnilus. I mean, just imagine, because Omnilus is set up to not necessarily need a healer, because she's got threshold heals, she's got law of geoabsorption, she's got I think other ways of restoring her health that aren't popping to mind right now, but I'm certain that she gets better if she has a healer to support her, so that she's not having to constantly recast Hour of Restoration every time she gets brought down to Courage, because that's really going to get in the way of her DPS, all that kind of stuff. I really think that they could be a good combination together. Who's the third person on that team? That is a really good question, actually. I'm not sure that I know. I think that might really depend what you're playing into. But you do potentially have some good green mages here in Helena and Valade for limited shenanigans. Shell and Minwu as potential quickeners. I'm not sure that this team needs a quickener, but maybe. I don't know. Could work. I figure you either want to quicken Omnilus so that she does more damage while taking less, or you want to quicken Resnick to heal more often. I'm not really sure. I am kind of scratching my head for a third unit. Maybe just like Yuna seems overboard, but Yuna might also be an interesting way to go. It seems to be beneficial to give her backup re-raise off of Aerith. I've seen that a bit in water, so maybe Yuna and Omnilus wouldn't be terrible. I also like, when I'm playing Skahal, I like the healer backing them up to have full life at their disposal, because you get chained on, like there's not much you can do about that. Skahal and in some ways Omnilus are weak to two units on the opposing team getting turns after one another. That's a rough thing to be weak to in terms of the meta. Just two units getting turns after one another. Yeah. Although, to be fair, most units are weak to that. So maybe it's not a unique complaint. It's just that the theoretical defensive capabilities of certain units isn't as high as hyped in all situations. Like, it works. It's a good strategy. It just doesn't work as often as you might